Hello and welcome back to my workshop. As you can see, Duke is in a sorry state. I had it out at the weekend and a friend was driving it. I was going along with him and I had an issue with the eccentric rod again. This time though, the pin sheared instead of just coming out. And when I was playing with it, it felt like there wasn't enough movement on the expansion link for it to go far enough forward. So I'm going back to basics with the valve gear. What I've done, I've referred to the Martin Evans book, and let me show you what he suggested for setting things up. Martin Evans tells me in his book to clamp the expansion link in a position where going from full ahead to full reverse does not move the valve, so it's in its middle position, which is what I've done. I've put a piece of metal behind, it's clamped to the motion bracket and it's clamped to the expansion link. So as you can see, lifting up and down, there is no movement at the valve. At this point, with the cylinder on forward centres, he says take some calipers and measure the centre of the expansion link drive pin to the centre of the return crank. I will do this more accurately when you're not watching. I might even make a little pin in there with the centre drill touched in it to show me exactly where the middle is, and I might do the same with the return crank as well. Take that out, knock out the old pin and do similar. But what he tells me is centre to centre and then move to back centres and do the same thing. Now I don't know if you can see that, there is a significant difference there. That should be the same. So what he tells us to do is move the return crank to halve that distance. So I need to slacken it off and make the adjustment. But let's say, for example, I had made the adjustment and halved the difference, which I would anticipate to be about there. He tells me that should be the centre to centre of the eccentric rod, which in actual fact is not far off. So maybe I am just not set up right. So what I'm going to do, I'll sort this pin out and then we'll get this set correctly. So I have tweaked it a little bit. Doesn't line up with the markings that are on it anymore. The centres line up there. See, there's a little centre drill in there. When I made the pin, I just put a centre in the end. Same with the dummy pin I've put in there. And when we go to opposite centres, we're in the middle of the pin. So that is the correct position for the return crank. Now I'm told by Martin Evans that that should be the correct length for the eccentric rod as well. However, we're a little bit wrong. Not a massive amount, but enough. We need to make this longer, which is the opposite to what I was expecting, to be honest. But what we're going to do is I'm going to try and cut across there, put a piece in, get it the right length, and then solder it back together. Or weld it. Haven't decided yet. We'll see what works at the time. So, I'll be back. So I have decided to take the drain cock pipes off the centre cylinder and then put rubber hoses on which go into these two cups. So, in theory, when I okay, so I need to do something to stop that popping out. I'll be back. So with much messing about, this is about the best I can get at the moment. So I think what I'm going to do is take the running boards off again. I will take the steam chest covers off on the outside cylinders, and we'll check that the valves are doing the right things on the outside. I'd sort of assumed that they were going to be balanced, but sod it. I will. I know the return cranks are in the right place. It's time to start checking everything else. So I don't think I've ever actually had the covers off the cylinders, valve chest, to see what's going on with the valves. And I know that on the inside cylinder, I had the valve slip position. So it's always possible the outside cylinders, or one of them, may have done the same. Maybe not by much, but could have done the same. So it's time to start investigating them. So fast forwarding on a day, and there is a bit that I couldn't show you, or can't show you, because I did it. And I thought, I'll see how it goes, and I'll show you when I do the other one. And that was cutting that rod. I used this bit of plate. I bolted the two ends down with spacers underneath to get into the right height, welded it together. I thought, I just wanted to do it. I went to do the other side, and it was the right length already. It just needed to be set. So that tells me that the fact that the offset is slightly different to the old expansion links anyway, maybe the other side was wrong and now it's right because the expansion links put it right. And the one this side, it was always a bit wrong anyway. So we're going to have to time it again, get it all right. I'm hoping that the outside cylinders will time okay and the valve will be in the right place already. And it's just the middle cylinder I need to set the position. But we'll get that done, and then I can try and run it on air and see where we go. Best part, 24 hours later, running board off, steam chest cover off. Now let's show you what I found before I touch anything. So when we look inside here, as we roll forward, see the valve start to open there? That is before centres at the back there. So that wants to happen a little bit later. So we want to move the valve back. And then if we go to the other end of the valve, when does she start to open? There you go, she's starting to open. And that is after centres. So that could do with happening a little bit sooner. So one end is later, one end is sooner. Let's have a think about what that means. Well, that means the valve wants to shift that way slightly. And I've already forgotten what it wants to do at the other end. So let's go back to where she started to open. Ideally wanted to open, so it wants to go that way. That's opposites. I think we need to remake the valve. I'll have a think and I will get back to you. This is where my head gets in a bit of a spin. For both ends, it wants to move back a little bit because the front end wanted to happen sooner, so the valve wanted to be further back. The back end, it wanted to happen later, so the valve wanted to be further back. So I'm going to move the valve ever so slightly further back and see what that does. So with a little bit of adjustment, as the valve starts to open there, we are pretty much on centres. And then if we keep rolling forward, as the valve starts to open there, we are just before centres. Well, pretty much. So that is better. Let's open up the other side and see how that looks. So fortunately, the other side I think will come apart a little bit quicker, but that's mainly because I have help. Other way.
Keep doing that. Yes, it might just... No, not quite.
Let's see if I can turn it.
No, you can't. I'll try. And then pull it out. No. But I can just take this off. Ew, what is that stuff?
That's it.
Oh, that's so nice.
Now we can take a look at what that one's doing. So now we've got that off, let's take a look. Francesca, if you like to spin it round until that's more or less at the front, we'll see the valve start to open. Slow down, slow down, slow down. Well, there it is. So it just starts to see a line of valve opening, and we are pretty much on centres. And then if we go round to the other end of the wheel, slow down, slow down, slow down. There we go, just starting to open there. And we are pretty much on back centres. So I think this side is okay, it can just be cleaned up and put back together. That one now we've adjusted can be cleaned up and put back together. It is giving the impression that I may have already done this one, but that one I didn't touch because I must have found that one wrong, so I assumed it was only one that was wrong in the past. So, get these back together. I might take this plate off now that the running boards aren't in the way, so I can take it off easily. And then I can run it on air and see what happens. With this out of the way, we can get to the adjustment for the centre valve easier. But we'll get this back together and then I'll talk you through the next step. So I'm often one to go the easy route and just put some silicone around the chest. I haven't got any at the moment. I think my last tube dried up. So rather than wait for the for some silicone to arrive, I thought I would not waste the opportunity to A, demonstrate another skill, and B, to utilise the opportunity for a cheap joke. So it's time to knock one out. Gaskets I'm talking about. So I'm going to put the valve chest cover there. In fact, I don't know if you can see this, so I'll get a closer look. Valve chest cover, gasket paper, kindly supplied to me by Kev, and one hammer. Cool. Come on, stop moving it. And now time to do the same with the ball end of the hammer. And just to demonstrate, I will poke that through. I've got several other holes to go. You don't need to see the whole thing. So, catch you in a minute. So having taken this top off, I can get to the adjuster, which is a turnbuckle, which makes the valve rod longer or shorter. And what I'm actually going to do is, now I've got good access, I can actually tweak it while it's running to get it going its very best. So let's take a look at that. So you see, that's not great at the moment. There we go, that's much better. I don't think we'll get much better than that, but I will keep fiddling and I'll get it tightened up and then we'll have a little look after. So, I don't think it's quite perfect, but I am pretty happy with that. And if I can get the angle, there's not a lot of pressure in the steam chest either, so I'm pretty happy with that. So that is pretty much it for what I'm doing to her now. All that's left is to put it back together again. So maybe I'll get that back together and then show you a little video of it ticking over, all back together and ready to go. But yes, thanks for watching. It's been a bit of a painful one for me, but I hope there's been stuff in here that some of you can learn from. It's always a bit daunting when you take them apart. You never know quite what you're going to find. You never know quite where you're going to end up going. But it's the doing it, the having a go, the getting there and fighting through, and eventually it's up and running. That's the rewarding bit. That's where the real pleasure comes from. So, enough of that. Please do like, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And I will be back soon, but let's leave you with the engine running.